Now I'm very excited to welcome back one of our top guests, in Mr. Will Hill from Bear Bets, VSiN, and the Should Have Bet More podcast. You can follow Will on Twitter at not the Will Hill. Will, man, thanks for coming back on the show during such a crazy week. But baby, there's no baseball that I'm going to talk about. No football. It's all basketball today. How you doing?
No baseball. What are you talking about? The Dodgers are 2-0, well on their way to God knows how many wins. But yeah, it is the best, man. This is just as good at any 4-day stretch in the sports calendar as there is. I feel like a kid on Christmas Eve. I don't know if I'll be able to sleep tonight. I won't be able to sleep well. I just can't. I love these days so much. I love this tournament so much. And look, I always appreciate it. But being the 5-year anniversary of COVID, it does kind of remind you like, man, I remember sitting there that day the tournament was about to start or supposed to start. Sorry, getting choked up talking about it. Looking at the clock saying, man, I should be watching a tournament game right now. We had no sports, nothing to watch, just staring at the ceiling. So got to appreciate it, man. It's really the best.
It absolutely is, man. I remember 5 years ago, I flew back from doing a couple videos with Wager Talk with Kelly, Marco, and Ace over there, man. It was a lot of fun. And all of a sudden we talk about the conference tournaments. I get home and it's canceled. I'm like, oh my God, seriously, I literally flew up just to do those videos, but that's how crazy COVID was. And yeah, unfortunately, my Cubbies, I woke up at 5 a.m., came in my office, turned it on the iPad. It was at sixth inning, and I looked, it was 6-3. Saw Ohtani homered. I was like, oh, forget this one. It looks like 0-2 for the Cubbies, but I did have a future on the Dodgers anyway. It's like I don't see anybody beating them, but it's all basketball, like we say, man. And I have to ask you, it's like everybody else, where are you going to watch the games, Will?
Mostly at home. I might flock to a bar here and there to just, take in the environment, have the TV set up where I don't have to do the flipping and I can just turn my head and just kind of enjoy it, maybe have a beer or two. But for the most part, I'll be home enjoying the games just in the comfort of my own home and, and enjoying them. And you got to pace yourself too, because if you're one of these people, the games start at noon, I'm going to, have a couple beers at noon or whatever. You might be zonked out by 4 or 5 o'clock. So it's a long day. These tournaments go on the East Coast till after midnight. So I'll be home for most of it, not all of it though. But it's man, it's just the best.
Same here. Yeah, I thought you'd get together with Chris or a few of your buddies out there in Connecticut. Maybe catch a beer or two for the few of them. So my plan is the same, Will, and it's been like this since I quit going to Vegas for it because wife, kids, too busy. Yeah. But I'll tell you this, it's nice to be able to live bet without distractions and watch it all. Plus, we got each other on text and Twitter and all that. So you still feel the community these days and social media of it. And I mean, I no problem with just saving money. A 12-pack of beer, $20. 2 beers at the bar, at least $20 with tips. So yeah, it's definitely a way to save some money. And
good point.
And still have fun. But now I got to talk about food, man. I mean, you asked me for the Super Bowl what I like to eat. What's going to be your food of choice this weekend for the March Madness?
Wings is the go-to. Wings is always the answer, the correct answer. So, I mean, you can't have it every day, every meal, obviously, but there will be some wings sprinkled in. And, that's the mainstay. That's the, that we build around that and then just kind of piece it from there. But definitely going to be some wings involved. How about you?
Wings, of course, man. If I might have to get them twice this weekend, as a matter of fact, a big old order of 2 dozen a piece. Yeah, it's my favorite thing. It's not the worst for you. It's not like you're pounding down the calories. It's I have my share of ranch dip on there. Are you a blue cheese or a ranch guy?
Blue cheese.
Okay. I switch it up every once in a while, mostly ranch, but the carrots go really well with the wings as well, and that's what I'm doing most of the time. Maybe fry up some brats because it's the weather's turning this weekend in Arizona. We're going to be in the 80s, so yeah, I might heat up the pool, turn up the brats, have a nice little setup here. But I'll be excited to say as soon as Thursday night's done, I'm doing a little cap and late for the Saturday games. That's how quickly we have to transition here. You got to be in good state of mind for that. So I'm with you. Well, let's play a little game, my man. There's a lot of noise out there, or there's a lot of good information out there. So there's a lot of trends that I kind of put together from Twitter. I'm going to give some credit to Jared Smith and Kyle Hunter because they tweeted these out. But I want to see if you're buying these trends, if you're selling these trends, and if you're just 50-50 on them. All right.
Okay.
So let's have a little fun here. And what's up, Philip Conti? Appreciate you chiming in here, dude. Any questions for any of you guys out there that's watching live before the podcast drops? Feel free to drop them in the comments. But let's go with this one. And this is a layup. The Mountain West is 26-53 against the spread in the NCAA tournament since 2020.
Bye. I watched San Diego State last night. You don't need to finish the question. I bet San Diego State last night. I watched San Diego State. It's real, damn it. Oh, man, are they bad. So I buy. I almost thought about throwing in a 3-team parlay, fading the Mountain West teams because you talk about all parlays are sucker bets. They're not sucker bets if they're correlated. If you're of the belief that the Mountain West is just completely overrated, then you know what? Betting against them, following those sort of trends, if you have that opinion, the lines are probably going to move in your direction, and maybe you do have some nice correlation. If you really believe this Mountain West conference is completely overrated, did they really deserve 4 teams? I don't think so. So I completely buy.
Dude, I'm with you. And if you take out San Diego State with their success over the past 5-10 years, it's way worse. Even it's worse than 32%. If you look at just the round of 64, they're 13-33. Let's look in like the 20s. This is just pathetic for the Mountain West. So I'm glad you're buying that one. I'm going to buy that one till my grave, buddy. I'm with you. So how about this one? This is an interesting one. And it's funny. I look back at the Horizon League, and I'm like, how the hell are they 25-15 since 2006? And I'm like, how they get more teams in? And I looked, I'm like, yo, that's right. Butler played in the Horizon League. There's a couple of years back then when the Horizon League was getting a few more teams in, but they're 62.5% against the spread since 2006. Are you buying, selling, or 50-50?
I'm selling that one. I just think that a lot of that's Butler, and the conferences have changed too much, and Butler's not in the conference anymore. So I think that one is not quite relevant. It's a good nugget to know. I wouldn't have, it's a good like barroom trivia one. I wouldn't have guessed that number, but I'm not going to put too much stock into that one.
All right. Well, if you're betting Oral Roberts or fading Oral Roberts, maybe think about that one this week. NCAA tournament games with a spread of 6 points or more in a total of 137 or higher. So these are like pretty big spreads, decently high totals. They're 197, 143 to the under. So the higher total with a higher spread goes under. I have an explanation for that. 58% buying, selling, or 50-50.
I'm going to buy it. Makes sense. You get in the tournament, the game slows down. It's hard to hit these high numbers. There's the shooting backdrop. So what is it? It's just the high totals go under, or is there another caveat to that trend?
The high total with the spread of 6 or more. So maybe the fact that there's 6, the spread is 6 or more, you're dealing with a situation where if the team, let's see, the games are staying under. So if there's no fouling because the favorites are covering, and if you're winning by 10 plus or so, there's no fouling. That could be it. That's part of it. I think some teams are getting blown out so bad, the rest of the teams are just slowing it down, trying to get the hell out of there and go to the next game. So it's all of a sudden the first half over might have hit, and maybe it's 50-50 with that. But the full game under in this situation is, and I am buying that as well. So I agree. This next one's called slow dogs, underdogs of 11 points or fewer. So not super large dogs, but pretty decent sized dogs. There's a ton of them, by the way, McNeese and High Point, all those. Yale. Underdogs of 11 points or fewer that are 7 seeds or worse. This is really confusing. Who play at a pace of 70 possessions per game or slower, on average, are 174 and 130 against the spread. So that's probably in the high 50s. Are you buying, selling, or neutral?
Yeah, I mean, directionally, it certainly makes sense. You're getting points. You're slowing the game down, which is a nice combination. And if the fact that you're a double-digit seed, you know what? Yale is off the radar. McNeese, High Point, these teams are off the radar. So those are a lot of things that just lead to value, in my opinion. So I buy that one.
Right, and I kind of buy it. I'm a little bit more than 50-50, but the problem is there's only 70 possessions is very uncommon these days because there's only 50 teams right now that get to 70 possessions on average. I think that was more before. It slowed down some over the past couple of years for whatever reason.
New shot clock too. Remember the shot clock used to be 35, which could have something to do with it.
Yeah, maybe. I'd have to look into why that is. And it's a KenPom metric, really. I think that's what it's going by. Next one, teams who lead at halftime are 220 and 160 against the spread, which is 58% on the second half line, dating back to 2018 in the NCAA tournament. So basically, if they're leading at halftime, they end up blowing them away more often than not.
I have to think about that one. Yeah, maybe there's just a schematic advantage that carries over from the first half to the second half, or a fundamental advantage in terms of size, just a mismatch, whatever the case. So I don't love it, but I'd say more 50-50, but I could see it at least.
Yeah, I see it too. Just they keep pounding them, and the team just shooting threes desperately at the end, missing. Yeah, I see that. So, but here's the problem: second half lines are kind of going out of style. It's usually live betting, just a normal line. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's how we do it these days. There's not you can go to the second half line, but it moves. It's the same difference. So that's interesting. Number 11 and 12. There's 3 left. Number 11 and 12 seeds are 125.95 ATS, 56.8% since 2011. They are 26 and 16 against the spread as a favorite. So apparently 11 and 12 seeds are covering a lot. Are you buying?
Makes sense. If you're good enough to be favored as an 11 or 12, you're probably, I don't know, are you undervalued because of the fact that the seed is going to, the seed number is going to keep that number down maybe a point or two lower than what it should be? Think like Colorado State, Memphis, where if you're of the belief, all right, Colorado State's better, well, you can't make them a 4 or 5 point favorite because they're a 12 seed. So maybe there's something to that. Again, these trends are interesting and they're good to know, but not this is not one I'd bet based upon, but it's definitely one that I could see. So more 50-50 for me.
I love how you mentioned Colorado State because they're the only one that's the favorite. And we just talked about the Mountain West. So I'm 50-50 too. I just because of Colorado State being there this year, but there's a couple other 12 seeds that might make some noise, and 11 seeds. First half unders in round of 64. First 4, 117, 95, and 3 since 2017, which is 55%. So first half unders. This was, I believe, from Jared's tweet. So first half unders have been hot, except last year. Are you buying first half unders?
Absolutely, with one caveat. The market seems to caught up. It seems, I think 2 years ago, it was just like printing money with the first half unders. And like what happens with these trends, and it's amazing the Missouri Valley was able to overcome this. The market adjusts, and then the value actually becomes the other way. And the Missouri Valley was a weird one where it didn't matter how low you made the number, that didn't get home. But again, directionally, it makes sense. These teams, there's max intensity on defense, strange shooting venues, especially these early start times. They're kind of a crowd, a lifeless crowd, a sluggish start, a sleepy start. And these teams come out a little tight where you're not going to just chuck up threes and everything like you would maybe in a regular season game in January. You're going to be a little more cautious. If you're the third or fourth guy, third or fourth best player in the starting lineup, you're not going to just catch it and shoot it. You're going to maybe be a little tighter and maybe pass it, dribble, that kind of thing. So I certainly could see, directionally how that makes sense.
I'm on first half unders already this year, so absolutely I'm buying it. Teams off 20-point loss in round of 64 are 27, 15, and 1 against the spread at 64%. Here's the teams: Kentucky, Troy, Illinois, and Robert Morris. Or sorry, no, Kentucky versus Troy. Kentucky, Illinois, Bama was off, and VCU. I said it wrong. So, all right. So what about this one? What do you think about the 20-point loss then?
Makes sense. They're undervalued because the market thinks they're no good because they just got killed, and everyone's max motivating the tournament, but they probably had some harsher practices. They buttoned up some of the things that were causing them issues to get them blown out, and they're a little more focused focused on proving what went wrong the previous time. So I buy that one.
All right. So BYU is the one that got blown out, not VCU. BYU, and they lost to Houston by a lot. That's what it was. And Alabama lost a ton to Tennessee or Florida. I think it was Florida. And Illinois got smoked, and so did Kentucky.
Yeah,
so
by Maryland, and then Kentucky got blown out by, I think, Bama.
Yeah, I think I'm on this one too. I like this one. I think that there's some reason for some of this. So I'm interested in it. Well, real quick, Phil's got a question. Thoughts on SMU tonight? I'm guessing in the NIT. Did you play that one?
I would only look towards the dogs. These teams now. SMU wasn't quite on the bubble, but I wouldn't be. I think SMU's laying a pretty big number, right? Laying 10 to Northern Iowa. I don't have it in front of me.
Yes, they are laying a a pretty large amount, 10.5, I think. I'll double check it. I might have changed since I looked this morning. I like Northern Iowa more in this
Me
one.
too.
And the reason is because SMU probably thought they'd get in because the ACC doesn't have anybody. They thought, okay, the committee's going to throw us in, not North Carolina, who was 1-12. But guess what, SMU? It wasn't you. You were never really in contention at SMU. But if I'm one of those kids, I probably thought, hey, maybe they let us in because it's the ACC. You don't want to play on any of those teams that are big,
100%.
that thought they were in a chance to get in. You want to either play against them or not play it at all. You are absolutely right. They probably do have a offensive rebounded advantage, Phil. It's 9 in the hook. Okay, so 9.5. So I just wonder about the motivation a little bit. And Northern Iowa is a feisty team. They're going to be feisty. They're probably going to come in. They knew they weren't making a tournament. They want to make some noise. So that's why.
And they got eliminated 10 days ago. They've been out for a while, so they've had time to regroup from their heartbreak. SMU hasn't. And SMU, I think, had a chance to beat, was it Clemson in like the quarterfinals where they blew a late lead? So they were, they figure if they beat Clemson, hey, we're right on the doorstep of this thing. So I completely agree with you. And by the way, overs did well last night. I don't think you can go wrong taking overs in this tournament because it's the exact opposite of the NCAA tournament. It's, you know what? We've been playing these stressful games now. It's the NIT. It's let's shoot early in the clock. Defense, we'll play a little bit, but it's more of a relaxed atmosphere. There's not the intensity. It's the complete opposite of the NCAA tournament. So I think these overs are going to continue to do well.
All right. Well, let's hope that these overs do well. And it's a great point. You don't play a lot of defense. You're just loose and trying to showboat yourself maybe for another NIL deal next year, or maybe even if you think you can get in the NBA. So that's a great point, and that's always been a good trend for these lower conference tournaments. All right, so let's talk some upsets, man. Cinderellas, Will. I'm sure you have some for us. Wait, you guys Cinderellas that are going into I call it like a 12 seed or more getting to the Sweet 16 of Cinderella. They don't have to go to the Final Four, but what do you have going for a Cinderella?
I'll just leave with the big one. I'm going to hang my hat on UC San Diego. I know you've liked this team for a while. I went with my Final Four. I went with 3-1 seeds in UC San Diego, the Tritons. I think they match up well against Michigan. I'm not high on this Michigan team. I think they've just gotten lucky in these close games and close wins. They turn the ball over a lot. UC San Diego will turn you over. They are very good defensively. And you're going to hear this a lot. And look, it's a concern. Michigan's got these 7-footers. UC San Diego can't compete with the size. UC San Diego doesn't have big bigs, but position to position, that's a big team. Their shortest guy is 6'4". So they're all 6'4", 6'6", 6'7" guys. It's not like they're small around the board. Their bigs just aren't big, but they play the right way. They're going to have no pressure on them. I think their pressure was maybe UC Irvine when they were down 10. And if they didn't win, they probably weren't making the tournament. They overcame that late Saturday night. They won. They're in the tournament. This is house money. Michigan played 3 games in 3 days. Now has to turn around and play in altitude. I like UC San Diego to win this game. And looking ahead to the bracket, I would not be shocked if they're playing Yale in the round of 32. Yale is one of these teams. They play slow. A&M can't shoot. If Yale can just keep them off the glass, and A&M is relentless on the glass, as we know, but if Yale can just keep them to one and done on that end, who knows? You might have a UC San Diego Yale second round game, and then my pick is in good shape and I got some value. So UC San Diego making a run is my big one. I know you're high on this team. I thought of you when I saw the bracket. I can't stand this Purdue team. I'll take High Point. I know it's a little trendy, and people are saying that about Michigan, UC San Diego, which, look, 2 years ago, Furman was trendy. They got home. Last year, James Madison was trendy. They got home. I don't worry too much about what's trendy, what's not. That stuff goes one ear and out the other a lot of times with me. But I just think that I do worry about Purdue kind of scoring at will because I don't know how great High Point is defensively, but I don't think Purdue's good on defense. I think this is an over game, and I think this, to me, is a last team with the ball kind of game. I think both these teams will be able to have success on offense. Usually you don't get upsets in the 70s and 80s. That's the old saying. Upsets usually happen in the 50s or 60s, not the 70s or 80s. That concerns me, but I like High Point in this spot.
Man, you're speaking my language. I feel, I did talk about High Point, and of course, it's something that you see in the team. We were both on Queens, and they almost got there. It's just, you see a chance, right? And the number's too high. A good bet doesn't always win. I'm with you too. Dare you put Florida Atlantic in, or not Florida Atlantic? That was the one you hit a couple years ago, which was awesome. Dare you put UC San Diego in the Final Four?
I did it. I got him in my Final Four. I actually found one of my books at 100-1. That's come down to like 50-1. Again, you kind of math it out and see if moneyline rollover parlay is better, if that's something you do believe. Obviously, the elephant in the room, and you got to get past Auburn, but who knows? Auburn was given no favors by the committee. They might have to play Louisville in a second-round game in Kentucky, or they get a Creighton team that's really good, that's experienced. Auburn is going to be favored, obviously, but crazier things than happen, and crazier things have happened than a team like Louisville or Creighton knocking off Auburn. So maybe the path opens up. That's what happened. You mentioned FAU 2 years ago. You think, oh man, they're going to have to beat Purdue. Well, Purdue lost to Fairleigh Dickinson. Then all of a sudden, instead of being a 7-8 point dog in the second round, the round of 32, you got Fairleigh Dickinson and you're a 15-point favorite. A game they almost lost, by the way. They were kind of losing late. Sometimes the path opens up. Duke was in their path. Duke got knocked out. Kansas State ended up being the team they played in the Elite Eight, which was like a toss-up game. So you never know. You can sit here on paper and say, oh, they're going to have to beat this team, that team, and that team. It's March. We know crazy things happen. So usually, in the last thing on this, usually the bracket is a beautiful blend of chalk and then how the hell did that happen? Last year, it's UConn, Purdue, the two best teams, and then how the hell did NC State get here? So usually it's a balance of something you'd completely expect, something we'd all expect, and then something that nobody would expect. So hopefully kind of hit the right Powerball numbers here.
Well, if you hit this one in the Final Four, we're going to change your Twitter handle to the real Will Hill, because you're going to overpass the sports book just by doing that, my man. That would be something else. But I think I have something special for you guys when we get to our beer bet bangers as well. So love it, man. I agree. I think that it is a weird matchup with Michigan, but we've been making that argument in the whole year about Michigan. It's like every single matchup. Oh, what are you going to do about the Area 51, the Twin Towers? What are you going to do about it? It's almost like it's getting old right now, and they're sloppy and they're in a letdown spot. They want to just despicably ugly game against my Badgers. And it was just neither team wanted to win. They would have lost to the 16 seeds.
Yep.
Yeah, if they would have played it, one of them in that challenge, in that championship. So I was.
And you've seen Michigan. You watch the Big Ten a lot. Wolf has a habit of these home run, like cross court passes that can get picked off. Like, he's a good player, he's a good passer, but he's very daring with the ball. That's the wrong team to do that against, because not only UC San Diego, they turn you over. They do it without pressing. It's not like they're one of these teams, they press and play this frenetic pace, and they're pressing you from 90 feet or whatever. They're or 60, whatever the dimensions. They just sit back, they play their half court defense, and they get their steals naturally, which would concern me if I'm Michigan.
Absolutely. And I want to ask you why it's trending, and I'm going to share my screen here. I know this bracket is one of the ones I filled out. So I pulled this up, and you see that so far on CBS Sports, only 21% of people, which shocking me because I thought this would be the 12-5, is picking this. You have to realize there's so many public people that don't listen to sports betting podcasts and don't even really pay attention, and will just pick the 5 here because it's Michigan and they beat Wisconsin. And I underestimated that. I seem to underestimate the public a lot. So is it trendy in that aspect? Hell no. And then I look at the splits, the betting splits. 57% of the tickets are in Michigan, 59% of the money, which is almost split. But that's switched right now too. 58-61. Maybe it's only trendy because the sharper people that you talk to, Will, kind of like UC San Diego this year, it's been hitting and making money. So maybe it's not as trendy as we think.
Or maybe people thought it would be trendy, but the fact that Michigan just won a Big Ten championship, and we're such victims of recency bias, all of us, that, all right, I'm going to pick Michigan. They just won the Big Ten, where people are off of it, where maybe if Michigan came stumbling into this tournament like they were into the Big Ten tournament, then maybe a bunch of people, would have been on to UC San Diego. But we just saw Michigan win a Big Ten championship. That was kind of a standalone game late Sunday, right before the selection, where not a lot else was on. And people probably weren't staying up late to watch UC San Diego play Irvine. People probably haven't seen much of them all year, but it's a really good team. It's a balanced team. I'm excited for that game.
Oh, absolutely, man. Me too. I cannot wait. Here's the thing. Don't let it bum you out. First of all, Michigan should be better, but this is a bracket that we're standing by, and I understand. I also have UC San Diego winning. I have a lot more shots at winning this thing. So, there's all kinds of ways of having fun with this. If you have a game you're out on and it doesn't work out, you still have a ton of ways to have some fun during March Madness. So keep that in mind. And Phil says Wisconsin was tired. Yeah, I was tired too watching them. And, Michigan 52% is what Covers has. So thank you for letting us know that, Phil. So yeah, there's a few more bets on Michigan. So not so trendy as we might have once thought. Well, we have a lot to talk about, man. Let's look at some of the Friday games. Let's kind of blow through them a little bit, and then maybe pass if you don't want to say anything.
Sure.
We'll start with I usually go by DraftKings order. Baylor versus Mississippi State. And I need to check if this has changed here because I think, I wrote these down and things change pretty quickly, as you know, in our industry. Baylor is now -1, not 1.5 total, 144.5. Anything in this?
There's about 2 or 3 of these games where I have no idea what to expect. You could tell me one team wins by 15 or 20, the other team wins by 15 or 20, or somebody wins a close game. Mississippi State's very up and down. I think their defense is going to yield some open shots. You got to keep Baylor off the offensive glass. If Baylor can knock down some of those offensive shots, I slightly lean towards Baylor, but I can't quite figure out this Mississippi State team. And Baylor, again, that's another team. They're super hot and cold. So I'm passing the game. I have no opinion. I would lean towards Baylor, nothing more.
I like the over in this game. I even took a bad number on it when it opened, but I don't care. Baylor's strength on Mississippi State's weakness is really hitting the 3, ranking 66 on Haslametrics to Mississippi State, ranking 236 in defending it. Mississippi State's strength near proximity, 15th in Haslametrics. Baylor, 215th in defending it. They both kind of what they do best is what the other team does worst on defense. It's a situation that I think you're going to see some points, especially at the end. The Bulldogs, man, been pushing a ton of pace. The trend line's been going up on Bart Torvik. Baylor plays slow, but they're going to need to keep up, man. Baylor can do it with Edgecombe, and that he's going to be a lottery pick most likely in the NBA, and they got some studs there. So I think the efficient offense here with Baylor and the speed of Mississippi State pushes this over. So I like this one. Robert Morris versus Alabama. Alabama -22.5. Total 165.5. Our trends kind of conflict because Alabama lost by 20. Yet Robert Morris on the Verizon League is actually a very good covering conference. So anything on this one?
I don't trust Alabama enough to lay this number with them. I don't know about them defensively. Again, you get these big spreads. You got to worry about the situation where, all right, Bama's up 20, 25. They start to realize, all right, let's get ready for our Sunday game. Let's get ready for round 2. Meanwhile, Robert Morris is just going to play with gas to the foot to the pedal here till the end, no matter what, probably. So that concerns me. It's closer to Robert Morris. I think this game is in Cleveland, so a little bit of a mini home court advantage for Robert Morris. It would be a lean towards Robert Morris. Nothing I'd bet, though.
Yeah, you wonder if every single person that graduated from Robert Morris can actually be a bigger crowd than Alabama coming in. This is the second largest total of the weekend. Alabama's fast paced, but they're very, very high variance team. I mean, they're missing, they're hitting. Robert Morris is kind of somewhere in the middle for pace, but there's no reason to BS here. Alabama's got all matchup advantages, but what I like about Robert Morris is they rebound very well. They're a great rebounding team. I watched them play their conference tournament because I had them to win it at plus 270 or something. And they're not the worst three-point shooting team in the nation. I think a blowout happens late, but I'm taking the first half, 13.5. That's a lot of points for a first half, man. I don't care who you're playing. Maybe Robert Morris gets hot and Alabama plays a little catch up for the first 10 minutes and, maybe the 13.5 ride. So I like it plus 13.5 first half, 2 stars, Will.
No, I could certainly see it.
Lipscomb versus Iowa State. Iowa State -14.5, total 143.5 at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'll start on this one. I don't have a play, but it's just too bad that Wisconsin's not there. It'd have been a nice little home court for them and a great little bracket. I would have loved to be in that quadrant if you're a 3 seed. That's the one you wanted because Wisconsin beat Michigan State already, and that would have been fun to see them go against Auburn if that would happen. There's just too much media talk on Keyshawn Gilbert. So everyone knows it. If you're the team, are you really going to put up with that? You're going to kind of look to yourself, maybe I'm going to put it down on that first game. So I almost feel like Lipscomb's getting a little too trendy for me. Iowa State has the adjusted matchup advantages. It wouldn't shock me if they put one on Lipscomb too. So I'm going to watch this spread for a while and just see where it goes.
I like the Lipscomb side more than the Iowa State side. As you mentioned, Queens earlier, they were down 10 in their conference semis, about to, they were a minus 200 favorite to win that. And they were about to be sent packing very early in that ASUN tournament a couple of weeks ago. Seems like a long time ago now.
Their best guy fouled out.
I know.
And then they got some really nice
They sure did.
layup free throws at the end there.
They sure did. It helps to have those games at home, and that's something to keep in mind with these teams that play close to home, because we know these officials can be affected by the home crowd and things like that. But Lipscomb does a lot of things well. They rebound reasonably well. They take a lot of threes. They make a lot of threes. So I prefer Lipscomb here. I think there's a path for them to being competitive in this game. Again, though, you mentioned it with the Bama Robert Morris game. If you like a dog, rarely wrong to at least put part of your bet in the first half, because we see it a lot. These teams can hang for 20 minutes, sometimes for 30 minutes. And then once that Iowa State, once that higher seed goes on the 7-0 run, that can turn into, a 16-2 run. And then your game that you were covering for most of it goes out the window in terms of, cashing that ticket. So Lipscomb first half, and then Lipscomb for the game would be two I like.
Well, that's not bad. It's a large spread, so I'm not taking Iowa State here unless it goes low, or I'll maybe live bet it. So I don't disagree with anything you said there. Colorado State versus Memphis. Memphis plus 2.5 total, 147.5 at Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, Washington.
Yes, I agree.
Gross. Do you have anything to say? Because I don't have much to say, except Memphis is kind of like a poor man's Michigan team.
This is a cool game. This is a fun game. It's a fascinating handicap. I do feel like, look, it's a coaching mismatch. Medvedev is much better than Penny, and Penny without his point guard. That being said, Memphis has some good athletes. They tend to play up and down to their competition, so you don't worry about that. It's not like they're going to play down to their competition, or they're not going to be up for this game. This is a tournament game. I'm trying to think of what happened to them last year in the tournament, but 2 years ago, to go back to FAU, they had a very good chance. They were up one with the ball. They got a shaky call go against them, and that could have been them instead of FAU making a run. So maybe they have an axe to grind in terms of that. They've been competitive against Gonzaga in previous years in the tournament. Maybe that was last year. These years all kind of blend together. So I would lean towards Memphis. The coaching advantage scares me, but I do think Memphis is being slept on a little bit.
Yeah, maybe so too. And I'm just not touching it because every reason not to. And it's like one of those you get what you deserve things from our good buddy Chris says that. It's funny, he texts us, he says, I hate you both. I was trying to figure out why, and then I realized I'm wearing a Badger hat, you're wearing a North Carolina hat. He must be on the other side of these. So that means you and I have to parlay North Carolina money line with the Badgers and make that plus money. So I think that's just a go-to play for us.
I think he meant to send that to somebody else. He would never say that to us. He meant to send it elsewhere.
Must have. Vanderbilt versus St. Mary's. St. Mary's minus 4.5 total, 136.5. Rocket Arena in Cleveland, Ohio. 4.5 for St. Mary's. It's interesting to see them against an SEC team. I'll say one thing. I do like this matchup that the committee did. So maybe you have something more than I do on it.
I don't love the idea of taking St. Mary's minus the points. I do have St. Mary's going pretty far in this tournament. I just love the math of they get more shots than you because they rebound on offense, they rebound on defense, they don't turn it over. They get extra shots, which is a great way to win games, is when you have extra opportunities, have extra bats at the plate to do damage. I don't love laying points here, but I do think they're just a really sound fundamental team. This has been, I know, doing this podcast, I think it was Sammy P on the Bear Bets podcast. A bunch of us have gone to the well with St. Mary's, where you have them making deep runs in previous years. They can never seem to get past that round of 32. And that would be a fascinating matchup if they do draw Bama next round, just in terms of the style and the contrast. But I'm going to take St. Mary's. I think they win. It's a lean towards taking the points, but nothing I bet.
Well, here's what's going to happen. St. Mary's wins. They beat Bama for Wisconsin. Then Wisconsin goes ahead, and then Arizona beats Duke. And then I'm sitting here in the state of Arizona with my Badger hat, and I'm going to get pounded if I go out to the bar and watch that. And then one of them's going to the Final Four. There you go. That's definitely going to happen. I just have a lean to the under, man. I'd like, or the first half under. It's kind of low, and these first half unders are a little bit low. And to be honest with you, last year, I took some bad first half lines because I was trying to catch the low, and then it went up before game time. So I'm just going to lean to the under 63.5, 136.5. But the scary thing about St. Mary's, and they'll probably pace Vanderbilt, both teams are pretty efficient, especially St. Mary's. So even though they're playing 60 possession games, they're still getting some shots, man. It's hitting some threes. And maybe after that disgusting performance they had, that Wisconsin-like performance against Gonzaga, hitting 0 threes, Gonzaga only hit 1. Maybe they hit some this game. So it's just a lean for me. Grand Canyon versus Maryland. Maryland's minus 10.5. Total 150.5 at Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, Washington. I wrote down that Maryland's the most complete team in the Big Ten. Their only weakness is depth. If they get in foul trouble, this is why a live bet for any of these depth teams is so good, because if any of them get in foul trouble, you got to go on the other side. If they're not in foul trouble, you kind of like them, right? And I think there's no better opportunity to live bet a game than this one. And Grand Canyon has no good matchup advantages, but they have performed really well against top 100 opponents this year. GCU ranks 7th in getting to the free throw line. So that's what scares me. If they're going to draw the fouls, Maryland's in trouble.
That's my handicaps. We can pretty much move on. Grand Canyon is about as good as anyone at getting to the line. Maryland only plays the 5 guys. Grand Canyon plays too fast to actually have them to actually, for me to be like, oh, they're actually going to win the game. I just, like I said, upsets happen in lower scoring games, and Canyon's pace is fast, but they are good around the rim. They've got a lot of qualities. Obviously won a game last year. I think they cover, but don't win.
Norfolk State versus Florida. Florida minus 28.5, total 153.5 at Lenovo Center in Raleigh, North Carolina. The Lenovo Center, I should have said better. Norfolk State's only 190 miles away. Is that enough to outnumber the Gator fans, Will?
They could play this game in the quad at Norfolk State, and it wouldn't matter. Florida is going to drill this team. I actually think, what'd you say, 20.5? I actually think that's cheap. Florida, I know they're trendy. They're the flavor of the month or all this. They're really good. They got guards. They've got size. They can shoot. They can defend. Golden's a good coach. I get flashbacks to UConn Stetson, where I don't know if I did on your show last year, or somewhere else, where I was like, man, I know it's 28 or 30 or whatever the line was. It doesn't seem like enough, and UConn ended up winning by 40 something. I know Golden's not necessarily the taskmaster Hurley is, but to me, this has 101 to 59 written all over it. I'm going to actually lay the points here with the Gators.
One of the first plays I made was Florida minus 28.5 for 2 stars. So I'm completely with you. I almost like it as much as Tennessee minus 18.5 against Wofford. I talked about that one, but this is too low. Florida's going to go in there and just make sure they don't lose.
One more thing with that too. You're going to see the score for this game. It's going to be, 39-17 or something. If you want to set up a middle, you're going to get a better number on Norfolk State live, because Florida's going to jump out to a lead. And if you like Norfolk State, dangerous advice, maybe you overbet Florida a little bit with the idea of, hey, I can come back a little bit on Norfolk State and set up a middle. I don't think that's the worst idea. I really don't.
It's a great idea. When this closes, Florida is going to be 30.5, man. This is going to go up that much. There's no sharp better that thinks that that's going to keep this thing down. Absolutely not. This is just going to keep going up and up and up. And, the problem is you don't know when it's enough to mill. Florida, these teams in these big spreads, number 1 seeds, they're going to name what they want to do.
Yeah.
Are they going to put their second string and third string in with 10 minutes left or 5 minutes left? That they might even be better, especially when it's Duke. It's like they're way better than what they have. So, yeah, you lay the points with these big teams. I would love to see the trend on that too. Let's move on. We're both in agreement on that one. What's the next one on Friday here? I accidentally just shut it down. Troy versus Kentucky. Kentucky minus 11.5 now. This was 10.5 for a while. The total is 151.5. What about this one?
Haven't seen a bunch of Troy. Obviously, Kentucky, it's ironic, or it would be ironic, if they had another early exit, another early blowout where everything was Calipari and he's no good. All right, let's get Pope in here. And if he were to get upset in the first round, they would lose their minds. I don't know if Troy can score enough to get it done. You probably have more on Troy than I do. It would be a slight lean to the dog, because I don't think this Kentucky team is great, especially defensively, but not a game I'm involved in.
I went in thinking I would like Troy, and then I kind of flipped. I didn't bet it. Troy has the defense, not enough to keep up with Kentucky. I thought about betting them, like I said, but Lamont Butler, man. This dude took San Diego State to Final Fours and final games. He's going to lead that locker room. Troy only ranks 222nd in offensive efficiency, man. This could be disgusting and one of those ugly. You're funny about Kentucky when they're not playing Oklahoma. They're playing like highly varying games. They seem to be either blowing people out or getting blown out by the top teams. So Kentucky is good against this, almost like a paper tiger, where they're great against the small teams. And I will stick with I'm going to lean Kentucky here, but man, I really got closer to bet them, but I'm not going to because maybe I can get a live number too. That's better. So no disagreement there, and this is going to be in Milwaukee. New Mexico versus Marquette. Marquette minus 3.5 total, 153.3 at Rocket Arena in Cleveland. 152.5 is what the total is now. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is top 3 of games I want nothing to do with. I want nothing to do with this game. I guess when in doubt, take the points. I don't love the Mountain West, though. There's issues I have with this Marquette team. Line looks about right. I don't know. Do you have anything here?
No, I don't. I think that Marquette, if you think is going to win this, in Cleveland is definitely a lot closer to Milwaukee than New Mexico. It's not that close, but it's like, 8-hour drive, 7-hour. I expect more Marquette fans there, and you can moneyline parlay them with like a UCLA or something, or you're going to get plus money probably if you did that, like plus 110. I think that's as far as I can go on this one. But I did bet something in this. I took the first half under. That's what I did. The Golden Eagles have done well on neutral courts. Wins versus Georgia and Xavier on neutral courts. Both teams play fast. But they're actually both defensive focused, even though they're fast. And so it's like there's no matchup advantages on paper. And these teams don't shoot well enough. And 72.5 was kind of high, in my opinion, for a first half with these teams. So I took the under in the first half. Well, that was one of them for sure.
Could see it. Could certainly see it.
Akron versus Zona, minus 14.5 total. Highest total. 166.5 at Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, Washington. I wish I knew the numbers on the totals on Climate Pledge Arena. I'll have to ask Kyle Hunter that. But this team, it used to be Bama when it opened was the highest total, but this one overpassed them a little bit here. So does the high total scare you away, Will?
I think I think the total is high. I don't think it's high enough. Akron wants to do nothing but shoot threes. I think Arizona is going to be just fine and happy with a pace that goes up and down. They're going to have the better athletes. They might score 95, 100. Arizona's going to score a ton of points here, unless I'm just completely reading the game wrong. Akron's going to try to shoot 30-something threes. I think this one goes over, despite the fact that it's a high total. If you notice, at least in conference title week, the really high totals went over. The really low totals stayed under. I don't know if that carries over to anything, but to me, I think we get into the 170s plus here. I like the over.
And that's a great point. Sometimes the totals that are high, don't let them scare you. They're high for a reason. And if there's going to be 5-10 second possessions, a ton of them, especially at the end when shit hits the fan, that thing's going to fly over. It's going to be at 150 with 4 minutes left and ends at 190. That happens with these teams all the time. So, it's almost like an Iowa game, right? Remember those Iowa games they consider low enough total. It's just the way it is, so don't just shut your eyes, bet it. There's pressure on the over. It's actually minus 115. So it sounds like, maybe sharper people or money is on your side. So that's always good. I took Akron plus 14.5 in this game. Their defense definitely worries me. Only ranking 163rd in efficiency on Haslametrics, but man, they can hit threes, man. And yep. I think Caleb Love is just so inconsistent. I can see him kind of just turning the ball over like he did against Houston at the last few minutes. He's not an NBA guy in my opinion. He'll probably get a chance, but I'm playing the Akron, and I like what Akron's done this year in the MAC. They looked really sharp. It's a big spread, and they haven't lost much. They lost like one game this whole year, if you will. So say what you want about.
How did they survive that MAC title game, man? I thought they were dead and cooked. They came out and they came really from the dead to come back and win that one. Jeez.
They certainly did, and they needed to because they were not making the tournament unless they did do that.
Nope.
The MAC's always hard for me to figure out. I try to stay away from it, but dude, there's something to be said about the way that they performed against almost everybody in the MAC. It's not one of my top plays, but I like Akron with like a couple stars. Oklahoma, UConn. This thing went up to 5.5 now.
Wow.
Oklahoma, UConn -5.5, over under 147.5 at the Lenovo Center in Raleigh. What do you have on this one?
I like the dog. I like the Sooners. I just don't think you can flip the calendar to March just because it's Hurley and the brand and the uniform and the past couple of years. To me, those are irrelevant. I know you're going to feel like an idiot if you pick against UConn and they cover and win. And you say, "Man, why did I pick against Hurley?" But they've got some real issues on defense. They can't protect the rim. They foul. They don't turn you over. I do think UConn has a path to offense the other way, so maybe an over's in play. But I think you're paying a major, major tax for the UConn brand and uniform. I like Oklahoma plus the points. I'm a little surprised it keeps moving in this direction.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Will. I took this at +4.5 at -102. I was like, this is going to go down to 3. There's no efficiency sites that doesn't have this a 1-point game. You're paying a massive tax on UConn. What the heck? UConn and Gonzaga, those both 2 big NC tournament names, are just massively inflated this year. In my opinion, because of that. And maybe a money line parlay on the dog, where it really comes up and hits, man, could be something to look at here, because I think there's value on the number. I mean, when you do money line parlays, it's value in the number. If you're right, you're right. And you're supposed to be right over half the time if you're a bettor. And otherwise, what are you doing? Oklahoma has their issues on defense and rebounding, but they played a much rougher schedule, man. UConn played a soft schedule and still didn't kind of come up. And I thought when they got their guy back, UConn was going to kind of flip a switch, and they never flipped. They never flipped the switch for me, man. And they're sitting there at number in the 30s, on Haslametrics, on KenPom. They're not even ranked that high. This is a head scratcher for me. They're barely ranked higher than Oklahoma. It's McNeely. When he came back, I thought that it was going to change, but he's just hitting bricks. Only 33% from 3-pointer. They don't guard the perimeter, Will. So me and you are completely eye to eye on this one. I'm shocked it kept going up. When that happens, I get pissed and I have to rebet it. Usually, I have to bet it at the higher number. So I do that kind of thing. Brian,
remember Oklahoma 13-0 in conference play too. That's something else to keep in mind. The SEC beat them up a little bit, but when they were playing, teams from everywhere else, they were doing very well.
Absolutely. Brian versus Michigan State -17.5 for State. Total 152.5. Michigan State shouldn't be a 2 seed, in my opinion. I don't think any Big Ten team should be a 2 seed, but in saying that, they're playing almost at home in Cleveland. Bryant will have no advantages over Michigan State, where they played no top 100 teams in the non-conference. Or when they did do it, they got killed. Bryant didn't stand up at all. Now, obviously, teams are allowed to get better, but neither team shoots any threes, Will. That's the thing about me. I'm like looking at the under here. Neither team shoots threes. It's probably a solid spread at 17.5, but I lean the game under 152.5, and I just might take it.
Didn't play it. Don't have much of a feel. Agree with your analysis on Michigan State. Don't love them as a favorite. Not interested in the dog here. So, look, there's what, about 32 of these first round games, and then much more on this weekend. NIT games, sides, totals, props. You don't have to bet every side, every total. So, this is a pass for me.
100%. Liberty versus Oregon. Oregon -7.5, total 139.5 at Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, Washington. Of course, it's on the West Coast because it's the last game of the first round. Give me Liberty or give me death, Will. Who said that again? Patrick Henry.
Okay.
And the more important person was Patrick Henry. I guess, and I looked this up. I wrote it down, but I even just forgot his name. He did it from the Second Virginia Convention on March 23rd, 1775, before we became a country. So give me Liberty is kind of what I've been thinking. Too bad Oregon's playing close to home was my thought when I saw this. But here's the thing. The line factored it in. The line gave him about 2.5 points for doing that. So I'm like, okay, Liberty's going to have a 3-point advantage, ranking 3rd in adjusted 3-point percent on Haslametrics. That's just with your strength of schedule. And Oregon ranking 45th and defending it. There's an advantage there. Oregon's going to have the advantage down low with Nate Biddle and Brandon Angel. But the Flames, they rank 11th in home road splits. So they play pretty solidly on the road. I like Liberty's chances here, especially to keep it closer than 7.5. But I also wonder where the public's going to go. So I didn't bet it. But I might bet, here's the thing. Is the public going to grab the dog on Liberty, or are they just going to try to chase at the end of the tournament here and make their money back on Oregon?
That's a really astute point. These games that tip off late Thursday, late Friday, you got people coming out of work. Oh, I'm going to throw some action on the tournament. Maybe that shades the line towards the favorite, and you get an extra half point or your extra juice or whatever with the dog. I agree with you what you said about Liberty. It'd be Liberty or nothing. I haven't bet it. It does worry me. You mentioned they play close to home. Altman's a good coach. Liberty's offense is a lot of cutting, a lot of motion, a lot of that stuff. I worry the length and the athleticism of Oregon with the bigger athletes, the better athletes can disrupt that. And then maybe Liberty runs out of steam. I think I had them. Boy, I had it was like to close out a parlay. It was the only losing leg of a parlay with some boost. The last time, it might have been the last time they were in the tournament. The Cade Cunningham, Oklahoma State year 2021. I think they had the lead at the half, and then they just ran out of steam and actually missed the tip at the end to cover. I just worry they run out of steam a little bit. I like Liberty. I don't love Liberty.
All right. Well, I like them too. Now, time for some beer bet bangers. And I'm guessing one you have, but I'm going to let you say it. What's your beer bet banger, my man?
UC San Diego to make the Final Four, shop around for the best number, but I like the path. I think that A&M is very vulnerable against Yale. I think that this is a toss-up game against Michigan, and I actually think they're going to beat Michigan, and then you know what? Who knows? Maybe Auburn gets picked off. Miracles do happen. I don't love that matchup if they do play Auburn, but it's not like Auburn's played great recently. Again, shop around. I've seen this 50-1, 70-1. There's one book that I'm 100-1. I don't have these in Connecticut, so mostly just looking offshore and, shopping around the different books. But that is going to be my shot in the dark here. The Tritons to go to the Final Four would be something I would greatly, greatly appreciate.
70-1 is where it's at, and I bet it too for beer money, but that's fine. I also bet them to reach the Sweet 16 at plus 390. So if they do that, I made my money back anyway. So why not? I am 100% thinking that there is no stress on them. The stress is on Auburn if they get past Michigan. The stress is on Auburn because they finished like crap and their expectations are through the roof. Yep. The way they lost last year in the first round, that the pressure is on them. And Bruce Pearl has been dropping some big games. Hell, they could lose to Louisville, and you might be playing against Louisville, like you mentioned. But I'm going with High Point, baby. High Point to reach the Sweet 16, 12-1. Or just throw some beer money on that and High Point to reach the Final Four at 250-1. I'm glad they're in the Houston side and not like Duke or Florida, but what the hell, man? Let's have a little fun. Hopefully they can reach the Sweet 16, and this is all gravy at the end. But, you and I both, man, we are both kind of high on UC San Diego and High Point now a little bit. And even I expect it to not happen. That's where I'm going in at it. But I'll have a bracket or two that has these guys in the Final Four, and I like those plays a lot, man. And I'm guessing you got a really good number on the Final Four too.
Can't wait. Where is that 70-1, by the way? So, because people have been asking me, and again, for some reason in Connecticut, these are they're very stingy with what they allow in terms of futures. The regulations are tough. You can't bet like Big Ten over/under wins. There's a lot of things you can't bet. So, where is that 70-1? Just so I can refer people.
It was at DK, and okay. Let's see if it changed though. So, UC San Diego, 71. Yep, still to win the men's South region 2025. UC San Diego at 71. And it's still there. So there you go. And so I would put a little bit, split your bet and put a little on the Sweet 16, put it on the Final Four. And I like that. And it's not as trendy as we think because everybody's filling out Michigan in their bracket. At least 79% of people are, according to CBS Sports. Would they lie to me? I don't know, but I think that they don't. It's funny. There's a bet that, buzzer beater bet. I took a little bit on that too. It was only at plus 100, but you got 70 games. And I just feel like these games it's not like these are 70 regular season games. These are 70 tournament games. I did it just a little bit.
Last night it counted? Did the playing rounds count? It has to, right?
Well, I just bet it this morning, so I don't think they're going to pay me. But
yeah,
maybe
you almost had one last night. You almost had one with well, I'm already drawing a blank on who the hell the team was. The St. Francis, Alabama State. By the way, great job by Alabama State. So many times, and you watch a lot of games, so you know this. 2 seconds left, 3 seconds left. You're on your own. You got to go 70 feet. These guys, they throw it 3 feet, and then they have chucking up a 3/4 half court shot. Throw the ball full court. Tell your team, hey, worst comes to worst, you have to get a hand on this ball. Even if you don't catch it, you have to touch it. So they're not inbounding under their own basket, the other team, but throw the ball deep, give yourself a chance to score. Though these 2-3 foot passes, when you have to go 70 feet in 3 seconds, make no sense. End of rant.
It's a great rant. At least half court, 2 dribbles,
Then the time
past an NBA 3, but so what? Yeah, absolutely.
I like the new play. You know what they've been doing, and this is really sharp. Throw the ball right at the half court line and then call timeout on the catch. And then you basically waste no time. And then you can inbound it from half court. And then you're really saving some time. But these 3-4 foot passes are they make no sense. They drive me nuts.
Dude, I mean, this is where analytics guys would kill it for these teams if they're just next to a coach. I mean, we see this way too often in football and all kinds of those, any sport really. They're just blowing their chances by not doing the right thing. And these are massive money swings for these schools, man. I mean, making the tournament or not, are you kidding me? It's a great point and great stuff. But Will, thank you so much for coming on, man. Love your analysis. Me and you are on the same side. So I think my weekend's going to revolve around yours. Please tell our listeners and viewers where they can get you great information.
Yes. Should Have Bet More podcast, Fox Bear Bets, VSiN. I'm on live bet Saturday and Sunday, 4 to 7 Eastern. That's actually a really good show. I give out just live bets in terms of like who's in foul trouble, live betting the totals. That's one. If people listen, you actually, we give out a bunch of winners because that's one. If you're live betting and you're really paying attention to the fouls, the pace, you can pick off some numbers. It's hard for the books to adjust properly in real time. So yeah, man, appreciate it. And always fun. Best time of the year. This is, again, a kid on Christmas Eve. I can't wait for these games to start.
Absolutely, man. We'll be texting this weekend, Will. Best of luck on your plays.